to market. In the morning, I drove my daughters to school and then called my neighbor Wu. We were walking companions. She would be moving soon. Although she would just move to the next city, we wouldn't be able to take daily walks any longer. "I had to go to the bank and clean the carpet," she said. "My schedule is full also. Next week is midterms," I said. "Let's just walk a little bit. We have to exercise." Wu told me that last night she had managed to watch a movie on television. It was a rerun of an Academy Award winner about a widow and her children struggling during Depression in Texas. I had just left Texas because of the recession there. My husband finally found a new job in California. We still couldn't sell our house in Houston and were trying hard to make ends meet every month. Wu understood because she had also moved from Texas. As we walked, she told me the movie of how the children had to be sent to different homes. Tears came to my eyes. Wu said she had already shed her tears last night. None of us had brought napkins, so I wiped my tears on my sleeve. We passed back and forth in front of our homes. We didn't go in until the story was finished. "I have to go to the bank right now. How about you?" Wu said. "I have to go to class, to a concert, and to a lecture. On top of that, I have to prepare for the midterm." "You sound like you're rushing through a Saturday market every day. Isn't it stressful?" she said. "Yes, it is, but I'm quite happy," I said. I looked at the list to do for today. I had to cook and bring my children to school and back, morning and afternoon, one in high school and one in grade school. That would be 4 times. 12 o'clock to 1:30 was the music theory class. Steve, the instructor, had said he might be able to get Kazan to come to talk to us. Kazan, the concert pianist, had just flown in from London, and it would be nice if we could listen to his lecture. 1 o'clock in the afternoon would be the lecture of Don Hendricks, our previous painting teacher, on his new Orange County Hill picture series. His recent exhibition had been a big success. Although there was a time conflict, Don's lecture was in the school auditorium right next to our music class. I might be able to attend both partially. Then I had to pick up my elder daughter at the high school and my younger one from the elementary school at 2:30. 6 o'clock in the evening would be the opening night for Richard's, our life drawing teacher's, exhibit. It would be nice to go and congratulate him. Fortunately, his exhibition would be in the gallery on campus. At 8 o'clock it would be Kazan's piano concert, also nearby. Originally I was just going to attend Kazan's recital and give up the rest because of the coming midterm. I sat down at the piano and started to practice 3 pieces for my midterm. One was Bach's Prelude. I had been practicing this piece at least 100 times, and I still loved to play it. Bach, the absolute genius. What would the world be without Bach? The second piece was Mozart's Minuet. It was a piece he wrote when he was a child, but I made mistakes all the time. Genius, absolute genius. The world without Mozart, I couldn't imagine. The third piece was Offenbach's Barcarolle. When I was in high school, I skipped class to see the movie The Tales of Hoffmann, and Offenbach's Barcarolle was the movie's theme music. I couldn't remember the story now, but the colors and sounds, as well as the wonderful feeling of being 16, were still vivid in my mind. I kept on playing Offenbach. I got to Steve's music theory class late. He was in a suit. His newly cut brown hair matched his newly trimmed musician's beard. I could paint his portrait, I thought. He said he couldn't get Kazan to come to our class, but Kazan was giving an informal speech at UCI that afternoon, and he urged all of us to attend. He said that Kazan was not only an excellent pianist, but also had a PhD in French literature, and his book, Haydn, Mozart, and Beethoven, The Classic Forms, was widely read. Steve also said that since he couldn't get Kazan, he would talk about his book in our class. Then he shifted to Mozart. Steve had just come back from Vienna, and his love of Mozart's music was evident. The usually good-humored Steve was tense. Finally, he said that he had dressed up not for Kazan, but to go to UCLA to talk about contracts. He had been hired as an associate professor there. "Then you would leave us," students shouted. He didn't let us know beforehand. When I first started taking Steve's classes, I knew he wouldn't be in our small college for long. I had been a perennial student here and knew from experience. I took all his courses. Now, although I felt sad that he was leaving us, I was secretly happy that I was able to take all his music classes for a whole year. Steve said he wanted to talk about Mozart. We all knew he felt attached to our class. He was an excellent teacher and gave us as much as we could absorb. Now he was going to another school. He said Mozart was such a genius that if we just studied him alone, it would take forever. Today he wanted us to listen to Mozart's opera Così fan tutti, which Mozart wrote when he was 28. Using his genius, he made a most improbable story into most convincing music. The Love Quartet was a masterpiece. Everyone was listening to the quartet. I looked at the clock on the wall. It was 1:15. The lecture by Don Hendricks next door had already started. I waited until the quartet was finished and slid outside. Fortunately, it was dark in the auditorium. Don Hendricks was showing slides on stage. He was in plaid shirt and jeans, as comfortable and real as his pictures. He was talking about Orange County, where he had been born and raised. He had painted his childhood hills brown and beige, a blue sky with no freeway or tract housing, and no air pollution. Even the thorns on the hills were fresh. Now these were quickly disappearing. Don said, "At that time, only one family, ours, lived in the hills. This slide photo is my very favorite, and it only belonged to me. We went to school by bus, and every time the school bus would turn and go up into the hills. There was only me on the bus. The bus went zigzagging, and I was always carsick and had to lie down on the last seat. I enjoyed the hills rising outside the window, backward against a transparent blue sky. He changed slides, a cabin against beautiful blue sky and the rolling yellow and sandy hills. The scenery looked familiar to me, and it turned out to be the hills behind our condo complex. Now, with all the new housing pushing at them, I almost didn't recognize them. I read in the newspaper that there was still one family, a young man and his wife and child, that lived in a house deep in the hills. They were there to watch out for wildfires, and they had only coyotes and rattlesnakes for neighbors. I had wanted to raise my hand and ask Don whether that cabin was his previous home. From the slide, his house was rustic and lovely. I looked at my watch. It was already 2:40, way past the time that I had to pick my elder daughter up. She was waiting at the curb. After I took her home, I drove to UCI. The music lecture had already started. Kazan was on stage. He was talking about Beethoven's concerti, and he knew each concerto so well. His analysis sounded esoteric, but I was just a beginning music student, and I didn't comprehend all that. Someone in the front raised his hand. His voice boomed. It was Steve's. Ordinarily, we would be asking him questions. Now he was asking Kazan a question like a student. When Kazan heard Steve's question, his tired face lit up. He explained in detail. I still couldn't understand what they were talking about. Everyone could see how tired Kazan was. He had just flown in from London, and tonight there would be an all-Chopin concert, and tomorrow night an all-Beethoven concert. 5 o'clock sharp, the lecture ended. Although Kazan had to give a concert at 8, everyone still surrounded him and continued to ask him questions. I asked him how he juggled between literature and music. He said, "You mean my PhD in French literature?" His tired face revealed a smile. At that time, the school only had a scholarship for French literature. I wanted to study music, so I went for a PhD in French literature. After I got home, I took out the leftovers from the refrigerator. "Mom, I'll cook dinner tonight," my elder daughter said. I thanked her and took out the best bottle of champagne in the cupboard and rushed to the school gallery. Richard was still hanging his pictures, and many students had already arrived. The hall was full of drawings that we never saw in class. He told us a number 2 pencil was the entire tool he had ever needed. I couldn't get my eyes off a picture of 2 rolling hills, such fine and delicate lines. Next to it was a nude of a young girl. It was as delicate and poetic as the rolling hills. Next, a picture of his dog sleeping, and another one titled Autumn. It was a single leaf trying to fall from a branch. Richard's pictures were black and white, but in them I saw all the colors. "Congratulations, Mr. R," I said, and handed him the champagne. I walked around the hall and enjoyed every one of the pictures and returned to his side. People had surrounded him. I said to him, "Mr. R, I can't afford your pictures, but can I just buy this leaf?" I told him that 100 years later, when he and his students were all gone, his pictures would still be here. I rushed home. Dinner was already on the table. I thanked my elder daughter. My husband walked in. After a quick dinner, we drove to the church where Kazan was having the Chopin concert. The little back hill road was dark. In the hills we could see a feeble light. That must be from the young family's cabin. And this was Don Hendrick's Orange County. I saw the stars above the hills, and I told my husband about today's lecture by Don. The pictures of Orange County he painted were so beautiful. Maybe someone should buy them and send them to the governor in Sacramento so he can stop the proposed 12-lane freeway in the hills, I said. The governor doesn't have that kind of power, my husband said. He turned and looked at the dark hills. Everything around was quiet except the engine of our car. The 2,000 seats in the auditorium were filled. Kazan's program included the haunting Nocturne in C minor, which was discovered after Chopin's death, his lively mazurkas, and the sonata in B minor. Kazan's Chopin was not only melancholy, but also tired. I thought he must be exhausted. My eyelids started drooping. I had been running around non-stop since morning. Now I was tired. Chopin's sonata in B minor. The stormy winter in Majorca and the dark and damp old monastery. Chopin was waiting for George Sand to return from town. He was already sick, but he composed as the raindrops beat at the window pane. The repeating notes transformed his melancholy into immortal music. Genius. If the world didn't have Chopin, it would be hard to imagine. The storm in Majorca, the repeating notes, one after another one, another one. When I opened my eyes, the sonata was over. People were applauding, and I had missed the best part of the concert.